Right now, if you try to speak a new language, your brain's amygdala might literally trigger the exact same panic response it uses when you're, being chased by a predator.
Yeah, it's wild. Your heart rate spikes, your palms start to sweat.
And your mind just goes completely blank. I mean, it literally feels like a physical threat. But what if the key to stopping that panic wasn't, studying more vocabulary, but completely changing how you physically move your mouth?
It's a really profound realization. I think we treat language learning as this purely intellectual exercise, right? Like memorizing a math formula or something.
Right, like if we just cram enough words into our brain, fluency will magically happen.
Exactly. But for someone just starting their English journey, the barrier isn't a lack of words. The barrier is it's the overwhelming cognitive and biological overload of trying to deploy those words in real time.
Which is exactly what we are unpacking today. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a set of strategies designed specifically for that absolute beginner stage.
Moving from those short, choppy, isolated words to fluid, confident communication.
Yeah, particularly in high-pressure workplace situations, which is where it counts the most. We're drawing from some brilliant insights from a source called Practical English, Conversational Foundations, and Workplace Fluency.
And the mission here is to give you, the listener, the tools to stop feeling trapped in your own head.
Yes, to stop freezing up when your boss asks a question and to actually start building real relationships in English. I kind of think of learning English, or any language, really like learning to ride a bicycle.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because at first, you're just trying to keep your balance right. You're surviving on single words. But today, we are taking off the training wheels and actually going somewhere.
To take off those training wheels, though, we first need to learn how to pedal smoothly.
Right.
And that means combining short, isolated thoughts into longer, flowing sentences. The source we're looking at today highlights this first major upgrade.
Which is moving from a really simple statement, like, I am busy, to I am busy today because I have a lot of work.
Exactly. Or another specific example from the text is moving from I am learning English to I am learning English because I want to improve my career.
I always suggest thinking of the word because as a bridge, like a bridge connecting two separate islands of thought.
A bridge, yeah. I like that.
Instead of making the listener swim back and forth between two short, choppy sentences, you build a bridge they can easily walk across.
But why does this matter so much beyond just grammar?
Well, short, single sentences can sometimes sound abrupt, or robotic, or even unintentionally rude.
Unintentionally rude.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
On the surface, adding because looks like a basic grammar lesson. But we have to look deeper into the unspoken social contract of the English language.
Right.
In English-speaking workplace cultures, politeness is heavily tied to providing reasoning. So if a colleague asks for help and you simply say, I am busy.
You haven't just stated a fact. No. To a native speaker, you have violated a social norm.
Wait, but if I am genuinely busy, and, I am a beginner, struggling to find my words, isn't it better to just be direct?
You'd think so, but
Like, why does adding because matter so much if it just forces me to construct a longer sentence when I'm already nervous?
because directness without context in English is often perceived as hostility.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when you give a one-sentence blunt answer, it does not just sound robotic, it sounds like a closed door. It signals to the other person, I am shutting down this interaction and I don't owe you an explanation.
I see.
By adding because and a simple reason, you are offering like a social peace offering.
That makes total sense. Think of the word because like a shock absorber on a car.
Okay, yeah.
If you are driving over a pothole, which in this case is a blunt rejection like I am busy,
Yeah.
that impact is going to be jarring and really uncomfortable for the passenger.
It's a bumpy ride.
The because acts as the suspension system. It takes the harshness out of the statement and makes the ride significantly smoother for the person listening to you. So, I am busy because I have to finish this report softens the blow.
That is the perfect way to look at it. You're providing context, which basically tells the listener, hey, I value our working relationship enough to explain myself.
It changes everything.
It instantly transforms your tone from defensive to collaborative. You sound infinitely more natural, even if your vocabulary is still incredibly basic. You're fulfilling the social expectation of the language.
Okay, so we've installed our shock absorbers. We know how to soften our statements. But let's take this right into the office. The source material places a huge emphasis on practical workplace communication.
It really does. It focuses heavily on two major time frames.
Let's picture a high-stakes scenario first. You are a beginner English speaker. You are standing by the coffee machine. The VP of operations suddenly walks up and asks, what's the status on the Q3 data?
Oh, instant panic.
Right, panic sets in. You're trying to mentally translate a highly complex explanation from your native language into English, conjugate the verbs, and worry about your accent all at once.
And that is exactly when the brain freezes. We talked about cognitive overload earlier, right? Think of your brain like a computer's working memory. It's RAM.
Yeah.
When you were performing all those simultaneous mental translations, your RAM completely maxes out. The system crashes.
You just get the blue screen of death.
Exactly. The brilliant workaround offered in this framework is to stop trying to build sentences from scratch and instead rely on pre-built empty frames.
Two frames they focus on are what you mentioned, right now and the future.
Yes, so the right now frame is simply I am plus a verb ending in ing, like I am checking the data.
Or I am updating the report.
I'm working on the presentation. It's so simple. The text has this great mini conversation where a colleague asks, what are you working on? And the response is just, I'm working on a report.
And what about the future frame?
The future frame, which is crucial for managing your boss's expectations, is the I will pattern. So I am still working on it, transitions smoothly to I will finish it by this evening, or I will update you in an hour.
Okay, let me challenge this a bit, though.
Sure.
If I am an adult professional, right, a complex thinker in my native language, and I go to work and just use I am doing X and I will do Y all day long, aren't I going to sound incredibly one-dimensional?
The common word.
Like, doesn't relying on these rigid, empty frames prevent me from expressing my actual personality or my, professional nuance?
It is a valid fear, but the reality is actually the exact opposite. Constraint breeds fluency.
Really?
Yeah. When you are a beginner, your goal in a high-pressure moment is not to be Shakespeare. It is to survive the interaction while maintaining your professional credibility.
That's a good point. Just get through it.
Right. These frames preload the complex grammar for you. Because you no longer have to spend your brain's RAM figuring out how to construct the sentence, you free up that processing power.
To focus entirely on the core information, like the noun or the specific task.
Precisely. You are giving your brain cognitive scaffolding. If the VP asks for a status update, you don't need 50 obscure business idioms.
No one likes corporate jargon anyway.
Exactly. You just say, I'm still checking the data, and I will email you the results by 3 o'clock. It is clean, it is highly professional, and most importantly, it is reliable. It gives you a safe harbor in a stressful moment.
So do you think English learners often make it too hard on themselves, like trying to memorize hundreds of random vocabulary words rather than just mastering these two simple, reliable frameworks?
Oh, absolutely. They want to know the perfect word for every situation, but the truth is patterns are so much more valuable than vocabulary when you're starting out. The source literally says, don't try to remember everything, just remember patterns.
That makes a lot of sense. You build the defense mechanism first.
Yeah.
You have your I am and your I will statements ready to go when someone approaches you. But survival isn't fluency, is it? To actually thrive at work, to build social capital and rapport with your team, you can't just be a wall that deflects questions. You have to go on offense.
You have to invite other people into the conversation.
Which brings us to upgrading your questions. The natural instinct for a new learner is to use the absolute minimum number of words necessary to extract information. So just where, or when, or why.
And that requires a fundamental shift in how a beginner approaches asking questions.
Right. And I want to use a physical analogy here. Imagine you and I are trying to build rapport. And we are doing that by tossing a baseball back and forth.
Okay, I'm with you.
A good conversation has a rhythm. If I walk up to you and just drop a heavy 50-pound medicine ball right at your feet, which would be a one-word question like, why? I have completely disrupted that rhythm.
Yeah, you really have.
It is jarring. You have to stop what you are doing, bend down, pick up this heavy demand, and figure out what to do with it.
It's a lot of work for the other person.
Exactly. But a full question like, why is the project delayed? Or where are you going for lunch? That is a nice, easy, underhand toss. You can naturally catch it and toss an answer right back to keep the game going.
The medicine ball analogy hits the nail on the head regarding workplace psychology. In English, a one-word question strips away all the social padding.
It feels like an interrogation.
It really does. If a colleague mentions they are leaving early and you just look at them and say, why? It puts them immediately on the defensive. It implies suspicion or, a demand for justification.
But they know what I mean. If they say, I am leaving early, and I say, why? The context is obvious. Why do I need to waste time adding the extra words if the meaning is perfectly clear?
Because you are confusing semantics with pragmatics.
Oh, okay. Break that down for me.
So semantics is the literal meaning of the words. Yes, they know you are asking for the reason they are leaving, but pragmatics is how those words operate socially.
Yeah.
By expanding the question to, oh, why are you leaving early today?
Yeah.
You change the pragmatic function from an interrogation into a polite expression of interest. You are signaling that you care about their well-being, not just their schedule.
It transforms a simple transaction, getting a piece of data, into an actual human connection.
And for a beginner, mastering this difference is a massive leap forward in building social capital. You move from being the person who just bluntly demands information to someone who actively and politely participates in the office culture. You start building a network.
But all of this, the shock absorbers, the cognitive scaffolding, the underhand question tosses, it all brings us to a massive roadblock.
And what's that?
Well, we can map out these conversational strategies all day. You can memorize the pragmatics, but if you keep all of this locked silently inside your head because you are terrified of sounding foolish, none of it matters.
Yes, the fear factor. This is where we have to address the physical and neurological reality of language acquisition. The source we're looking at has a pro tip that takes a hard-line stance here.
They say passively listening or silently reading is fundamentally insufficient for fluency.
Yes. The requirement is to speak out loud every single time you practice. They say only watching videos is the wrong way to learn.
They actually offer a mathematical formula: mistakes equal learning.
It's a great formula.
And they demand that the learner say vocal affirmations out loud. Things like, I am speaking English, I am not afraid, and I am improving every day.
It sounds a bit like self-help, but it's grounded in science.
Right, but I have to be honest. Sitting alone in my bedroom and talking to the wall feels incredibly silly. Why is the actual physical act of speaking out loud so vastly different from just listening to a native speaker on an audio track and absorbing the information?
Because your mouth has literally grown to fit your native language.
Wait, really? Grown to fit it?
Yes, literally. For decades, your jaw, your tongue, your vocal cords, and the muscles in your face have been making the exact same specific set of micro-movements to produce the sounds of your mother tongue.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
When you learn English, you are asking those muscles to perform entirely new, unfamiliar acrobatics. You cannot train a physical muscle through passive cognitive intake.
Right, you wouldn't expect to build a bicep by watching a video of someone lifting weights.
Exactly. So, language learning is literally a physical workout for your face. It is a complex motor skill.
Right.
When you speak out loud, even to an empty room, you are forcing those muscles to fire. You are building actual physical muscle memory.
That makes perfect sense.
And there is a deeper neurological component here that ties directly back to what you mentioned at the very beginning of our deep dive, the amygdala.
The panic response.
Exactly. For many beginners, attempting to speak English in front of another human being triggers a literal stress response. The brain perceives the potential for social embarrassment as a genuine biological threat.
So it releases cortisol. Your mind goes blank.
Which is why the I am and I will frames are so important to save RAM.
Yeah.
But how do we stop the panic from happening in the first place?
By using your own voice to downregulate your nervous system.
Yes. That is why those vocal affirmations are not just self-help fluff. When you repeatedly say out loud, I am not afraid, or even just practice your workplace frames aloud, your ears hear your own voice successfully producing the sounds of English in a safe environment.
Oh, that's fascinating. You are biologically acclimating your brain to the physical vibration of you speaking this new language.
Or inoculating yourself against your own anxiety. You are proving to your amygdala that speaking English does not result in death or danger.
So when you finally step into the office and open your mouth to ask a colleague a full, polite question, your body is already used to the sensation. The alarm bells don't ring.
That reframes the entire concept of making mistakes. If the goal is physical muscle memory and neurological exposure therapy, then sitting silently because you are afraid of using the wrong verb tense is actually the only real way to fail.
The mistake isn't an error in grammar. The mistake is missing out on the physical repetition you need to rewire your brain.
Which is why mistakes equal learning is the only mindset that works. If you do not allow yourself to make the sounds, get them entirely wrong, and realize that you survived the experience, you will never build the physical or psychological resilience required for real-world fluency.
Man, let's take a step back and look at the journey we've just mapped out for someone stepping into the English-speaking world.
It's been quite a ride.
We started by looking at defense. We learned to install because shock absorbers, to soften our blunt statements and fulfill the unspoken social contracts of politeness.
Right, and we then explored how to survive the immense pressure of the workplace by relying on simple, reliable frames, the I am present action and the I will future plan.
By using these structures, we prevent cognitive overload, save our brain's RAM, and maintain our professional credibility without needing a massive vocabulary.
From there, we went on offense. We learned how to throw an underhand toss instead of dropping a medicine ball.
Yeah, by upgrading our questions from single-word interrogations to full sentences, we stop demanding information and start building social capital and genuine connections with our colleagues.
And finally, we grounded all of these tactics in the biological reality of learning. We established that fluency is a physical motor skill that requires actual muscle memory.
And that speaking out loud is the only way to downregulate the brain's panic response and acclimate yourself to your new voice. It is a complete paradigm shift from how most of us were taught in school.
Absolutely. You aren't just memorizing a textbook. You are physically and socially re-engineering how you interact with the world.
And that brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We talked extensively about the fear of making mistakes, about the panic of sounding foolish, and about trusting the messy process of speaking out loud.
It's a vulnerable process.
It really is. And I want you to reconsider a concept that causes so much anxiety for language learners, the concept of having an accent.
Oh, that's a big one.
For so many beginners, an accent feels like a glaring mistake. It feels like a flaw that you have to desperately try to erase before anyone notices. I mean, it is the reason so many people stay silent in meetings.
Yeah, they're so worried about sounding different.
But if we accept everything we've talked about today, if mistakes truly equal learning, and if speaking a new language requires immense neurological and physical bravery, then what if an accent isn't an error at all?
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
Think about it. Having an accent doesn't mean you are failing at English. It means you already speak an entirely different language. It means your mouth and your mind have been shaped by a whole other culture, and you are taking on the monumental task of bridging that gap.
It's evidence of the work you're putting in.
Exactly. What if an accent is simply a badge of honor? It is visible, audible proof to everyone in that office of exactly how far your journey has taken you and the sheer courage it takes to speak a language you weren't born into.
A badge of honor. I love that.
So don't stay silent. Throw the underhand toss. Use your frames. Keep speaking out loud. Keep making those glorious, necessary mistakes. And remember that with every single word, you are improving. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.